The Varlan expedition fleet drifted through the void, its sleek silver hulls cutting through the darkness of space. They were explorers, scientists, and cartographers, mapping the unknown edges of the galaxy. Commander Relk Taven sat in the dimly lit control room, his blue-scaled fingers tapping against the console. The screen before him flickered with data, numbers scrolling rapidly. They had been surveying uncharted systems for months. But this was different. "Sir," a voice crackled through the ship's comms. "You need to see this." Relk stood and strode toward the main observation deck. The crew, a mix of species from across the Galactic Council, huddled around a glowing holographic display. A planet hung in the center of the projection. Large, blue, green, teeming with life. It looked ordinary, but something about it sent a chill down Relk's spine. "Where is this?" he asked. Navigator Jorik, a wiry avian with sharp golden eyes, swallowed hard. "Sector X-99. The restricted zone." Relk stiffened. "That's impossible. The Council forbids travel there." Jorik hesitated. "Yes, sir. But the coordinates came from a deep space probe. It wasn't us who found the planet. It was the planet that sent a signal." Silence fell over the room. "What kind of signal?" Jorik pressed a button. A low hum filled the air. Static, broken transmissions. And then a voice. Old, strong, unfamiliar. "We remain." The message repeated. "We remain." Relk felt the weight of those words settle in his chest. No name, no coordinates, just a warning, or a challenge, a planet forgotten by time. Relk turned back to the hologram. His fingers danced over the controls, pulling up the planet's data. A terrestrial world. Gravity slightly above galactic standard. Thick atmosphere. Dense jungles, vast oceans, frozen tundras. A perfect candidate for life. But something was wrong. No records. Relk frowned. Every habitable planet is catalogued. Science Officer Vena, a pale-skinned Varnix, hesitated. "Not this one." She tapped the console, and a red warning flashed across the screen. Classification: TLS 14 DEATHHORO. D. The room went deathly still. "That's a mistake," Vena whispered. Relk's stomach twisted. A Class 14 Deathworld. There were only 2 recorded in history. Both had been marked off-limits, impossible for advanced life to exist. Yet, this planet was alive, thriving, and it had sent a message. "We remain." The forbidden name. Jorik's feathers ruffled. "Sir," I ran another check. This planet did have a name. A long time ago. Relk's eyes snapped to him. "What name?" Jorik's beak clicked nervously. He tapped the screen, and a single word appeared in ancient galactic script. Earth. A shiver ran down Relk's spine. He had heard that name before, buried in old stories, legends, myths, warnings whispered in the halls of the Council. A planet lost to time. A civilization erased from history. Humans. Vena exhaled sharply. "That's not possible. Humanity was wiped out centuries ago." Relk stared at the message on the screen. "We remain." If humans were extinct, then who had sent the signal? A dangerous decision. The crew shifted uneasily. Exploring a Deathworld was suicide. And yet, Relk had to know. He turned to the helm. "Set course for Earth." Gasps echoed across the room. Jorik stammered. "Commander, we can't." "That's an order." The engines roared to life. The Varlan fleet moved toward the forbidden world. No one knew what waited for them below. But one thing was certain. This was no ordinary planet. And if the legends were true, they weren't ready for what they were about to find. The Varlan fleet slowed as it reached the edge of Earth's atmosphere. Commander Relk Taven stood at the main viewport, staring down at the swirling blue and green world below. It looked peaceful. Ordinary, but nothing about a Class 14 Deathworld was ever ordinary. The ship's sensors beeped rapidly. "Sir, the readings are unstable," Science Officer Vena reported, her pale fingers dancing over the console. "Massive temperature fluctuations, electrical storms, radiation spikes. It's a miracle anything survives down there." Relk frowned. "Any signs of civilization?" Jorik, the avian navigator, hesitated. "That's the thing, sir. The scans are strange." He zoomed in on a landmass. Asterisk, asterisk, there were cities. Asterisk, asterisk, or what remained of them. Giant metal towers stood half-buried in forests, crumbling ruins covered in vines. Nature had reclaimed the planet. No lights, no power, no ships. Jorik continued, "If there was once a civilization, it's long dead." Relk exhaled, but something felt wrong. If this was truly a dead world, who sent the signal? The screen still flashed the eerie message. "We remain. Touchdown on a dead world. Prep the landing shuttle." Relk ordered. "We're going down." A tense silence filled the bridge. Exploring an uncharted Deathworld was insane. But curiosity and fear pushed them forward. The landing party consisted of Relk, Vena, Jorik, and 2 heavily armed guards. They boarded the scout shuttle and descended through the thick clouds. Immediately, the ship shook violently. Turbulence increasing. Jorik squawked. "Something's interfering with the stabilizers." Relk gritted his teeth. The clouds outside turned dark, flashing with lightning. The shuttle's hull groaned as if the planet itself was resisting their arrival. Then, they broke through the storm. And what they saw made their blood run cold. The graveyard of giants. Below them, stretching for miles, was a ruined city. Towering skyscrapers lay shattered, some broken in half. Bridges had collapsed into choked rivers, and rusted vehicles littered the streets like the remains of a forgotten war. And yet, it was quiet. Too quiet. "This isn't just a death world," Vena whispered. "It's a graveyard." The shuttle landed in an open plaza near the skeletal remains of a massive building. The crew stepped out cautiously, their boots crunching over cracked pavement. The air was thick, heavy with something ancient. Jorik adjusted his scanner. Still no signs of life. Relk walked toward a fallen structure. He ran his hand along the metal. It was not alien. This was once an advanced civilization. This was the home of humans. But if they were gone, who sent the message? The first omen. Vena tapped at her wrist computer. "We should collect samples and..." A loud crash echoed through the ruins. The crew froze. Something had moved. Something big. Relk raised his plasma rifle. "Jorik, life signs." Jorik fumbled with his scanner. I don't know. It's malfunctioning." Another sound. Closer this time. A deep guttural growl rumbled from the shadows. Vena whispered, "We are not alone." Hunted. A blur of motion. Then a roar. From the ruins, something charged. It was massive. 8 feet tall, covered in thick armor-like skin, eyes glowing red in the darkness. Its shape was vaguely humanoid, but twisted, stronger, deadlier. It was not an animal. It was something else. The team opened fire, plasma bolts lighting up the dark streets. The creature barely flinched. It moved too fast, too precise, like a predator that had hunted before. Relk's mind raced. This was impossible. Humanity was extinct. So why did this monster look almost human? The roar of the creature echoed through the ruins, shaking dust from the crumbling buildings. Commander Relk Taven barely had time to react before the massive figure lunged. It moved fast, too fast for something so big. Jorik screamed. The avian navigator stumbled backward, flaring his wings in panic. The creature swiped with inhuman strength, claws slicing through the air. Jorik barely dodged in time. Plasma fire erupted. Relk and the 2 guards fired their rifles, blue bolts striking the beast's thick skin. It flinched, but did not fall. Instead, it turned its glowing red eyes on them. A shiver ran down Relk's spine. This wasn't just a predator. It was thinking, studying them, a fight for survival. Fall back. To the shuttle, Relk ordered. The team scrambled over broken concrete as the beast charged again. It leaped, covering an impossible distance in a single bound. Vena raised her weapon, aiming for the head. She fired. The plasma bolt hit the creature's skull. It staggered, growled. Then, slowly, it smiled. Vena's blood turned to ice. It understands us. The creature roared and swung. Vena was thrown off her feet, hitting the ground hard. Jorik panicked. He spread his wings and took off, trying to fly out of reach. But before he could escape, another figure appeared, a second beast. It launched itself from the shadows, grabbing Jorik midair. The avian shrieked as the monstrous figure slammed him into the ground. His body twitched, then went still. Jorik, Vena screamed. Relk's heart pounded. They had to run. Now, a desperate escape. Relk grabbed Vena's arm, dragging her to her feet. Move, back to the shuttle. The guards fired desperately, trying to slow the creatures down. One of the beasts lunged, tearing through armor like paper. The soldier's scream was cut short as blood sprayed across the pavement. The second guard turned to run. He made it 2 steps before a clawed hand ripped him backward into the darkness. 2 down. Only Relk and Vena remained. The 2 sprinted toward the shuttle, their hearts pounding. The creatures did not chase immediately. They stood there, watching, waiting. Then, one of them spoke. The terrifying truth. The deep guttural voice rumbled through the air. Weak. Relk froze in place. His mind refused to believe what he had just heard. These things could talk. These things were intelligent. Vena turned, horrified. That's impossible. They can't be human. They can't be. The largest creature tilted its head, smiled. Humans, it repeated, voice dripping with amusement. Then it stepped forward into the dim light. Relk's breath caught in his throat. The beast had the remnants of armor on its body. Rusted, broken, old, and on its chest, a faded insignia. The Earth emblem. This was not a mindless monster. This was a survivor. A chilling realization. Vena's voice shook. Humans survived. Relk's mind raced. But how? The Galactic Council had declared humanity extinct centuries ago. What happened here? What turned them into this? The creature growled lowly. It was not done hunting. Relk grabbed Vena's arm again. Run. They sprinted the last few meters. The shuttle doors hissed open. They jumped inside, slamming the emergency lock. The beasts charged. Claws raked against the metal as the engines roared to life. The shuttle blasted into the sky, escaping just in time. One final message. Inside, Vena slumped against the wall, panting. Jorik and the 2 guards were dead. Relk sat in the pilot's seat, gripping the controls with shaking hands. They had come looking for ghosts. Instead, they found something worse. Then, suddenly, the ship's radio crackled. A deep, distorted voice came through the speakers. We remain. Relk and Vena stared at each other in horror. The creatures were not extinct. They were watching, waiting, and they knew the Varlan expedition was here. The shuttle hurtled through the sky, breaking through the thick clouds of Earth's atmosphere. Commander Relk Taven's hands were shaking. His breathing was ragged, heart pounding against his chest. Beside him, Vena sat frozen, eyes locked on the viewport. Jorik and the 2 guards were dead. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was what they left behind. We remain. The radio still crackled with the haunting words. We remain. Relk forced himself to respond. Who are you? Static. Then, a low chuckle. You already know. Vena swallowed hard. It's impossible. The creatures they saw should not exist. Humanity had been wiped out centuries ago. The Galactic Council had ruled Earth, a Class 14 Deathworld, for a reason. Yet, somehow, they survived. What happened to them? Relk clenched his jaw. There was only one way to find out. Descending again. "We're going back," he announced. Vena's head snapped toward him. "You're insane. We can't leave without knowing the truth." Relk's voice was firm. The Council thinks humanity is dead, but they're wrong. If we don't report this, someone else will come, and they won't be as careful as we were. Vena hesitated. Then, slowly, she nodded. Relk steered the shuttle back toward the surface. But this time, they would not land in the open. A hidden entrance. The shuttle followed the ruins until they spotted a massive crater. At its center was a collapsed underground facility, half buried under debris. It wasn't natural. Something had blasted this place apart. Relk guided the shuttle into the wreckage, landing inside what looked like an ancient military hangar. The walls were lined with rusted vehicles, broken weapons, and strange markings. Vena scanned the area. This place is centuries old, but it was advanced. Relk's eyes narrowed. Then why did it fall? The echoes of the past. They moved deeper inside, footsteps echoing through the vast halls. The air was stale, thick with dust and decay. Old computer screens flickered weakly, their power almost drained. Then, Vena stopped. Her eyes widened. She pointed at a giant emblem carved into the wall. It was the Earth emblem. And below it, in faded letters, was an inscription. Project Revenant. The Last War. Relk stepped closer, his fingers tracing the ancient text. His translator struggled, but the meaning was clear. Vena whispered. They weren't wiped out by the Council. They were fighting something else. The horror in the dark. A sudden noise echoed from deeper in the ruins. A low growl. Relk and Vena raised their weapons, hearts pounding. Then a shadow moved. A figure stepped into the dim light. It was one of them. The survivor. His body was tall, muscular, but scarred, skin rough like armor. His eyes glowed faintly in the dark. Not red, like the beasts before, but a piercing silver. This one was different. He didn't attack. He simply stared at them. Then, in perfect galactic standard, he spoke. "You should not have come here." The air was thick with silence. Commander Relk Taven and Vena stood frozen, weapons raised. Before them, the last human survivor watched them with glowing silver eyes. His scarred face was unreadable, his posture tense but controlled. He was nothing like the monstrous figures they had encountered before. This one was aware. And he spoke their language. The warning. "You should not have come here." His voice was deep, steady, but laced with something else. Not anger, not fear. Regret. Relk's grip tightened on his weapon. "Who are you?" The man exhaled slowly. "I am what remains." Vena took a cautious step forward. "You're human." The survivor's lips curled slightly. "Once, maybe." He tilted his head, studying them. "You are from the Council." It wasn't a question. Relk hesitated. Lying wouldn't work. "Yes." The man sighed, running a hand through his short, silver-streaked hair. "Then it's already too late." Relk's stomach twisted. Too late for what? The survivor's silver eyes locked onto his. "For you to leave. The ghosts of war." The air grew colder. From the dark halls of the ruined facility, shadows stirred. Something else was here. Vena whispered, "We're not alone." The human nodded. "No, you are not." A low, inhuman growl rumbled through the corridors. The walls shook slightly as distant footsteps echoed closer. Relk's pulse spiked. "What are those things? What happened to your people?" The survivor's gaze didn't waver. "You think we were wiped out by the Council?" He shook his head. "We were betrayed." Vena's breath hitched. "By who?" The human's jaw tightened. Ourselves. The fall of humanity. He gestured toward the walls. The faded inscription still loomed above them. Project Revenant. The last war. We were dying, he said, his voice bitter. The council saw us as a threat. We knew we couldn't win a war against the entire galaxy, so we did what humans always do. He clenched his fists. We tried to survive. Vena frowned. Tried how? The survivor exhaled. Through evolution. A terrible realization dawned on Relk. You changed yourselves. The man nodded. We created something new, something stronger. We called it Project Revenant. He pointed into the darkness, where the growls were growing louder. But we lost control. The hunters awakened. A sharp howl split the air. The ground trembled as something moved through the corridors. Fast. The human turned sharply. They found us. Relk raised his weapon. What are they? The man's voice was grim. The ones who survived the war, but lost their minds. Vena's hands shook. They were human once. The survivors' silver eyes glowed faintly. Yes. Then, the beasts attacked. The last stand. The walls exploded inward. From the shadows, the creatures lunged. Massive, fast, and hungry. Relk and Vena opened fire, plasma bolts searing the darkness. The beasts shrieked but kept coming. The survivor moved like lightning, grabbing an old blade from the ruins and charging straight into the fight. His movements were terrifyingly precise. Too fast, too strong. He was one of them, but still in control. Relk barely had time to process this before one of the beasts slammed into him. He hit the ground hard, the creature's claws inches from his throat. Then a blade sliced through the monster's skull. The survivor ripped his weapon free and pulled Relk to his feet. Run. Relk didn't argue. The three of them raced toward an old exit hatch, dodging the monstrous figures closing in from all sides. One final revelation. As they neared the exit, the survivor called out, "You need to tell the council." Relk's head snapped toward him. "Tell them what I say." The human looked at him with burning silver eyes. Earth never fell. It was abandoned. And now it belongs to the monsters we created. The air was filled with the sounds of battle. Blazing plasma bolts tore through the darkness. Screams, both human and monstrous, echoed through the ruined facility. Commander Relk Taven pushed forward, his body running on pure adrenaline. Behind him, Vena fired wildly, her breathing ragged. The last human survivor, his silver eyes glowing, moved like a ghost, cutting down the creatures with terrifying efficiency. But the revenants kept coming. They were surrounded. The price of survival. Relk slammed his back against a rusted metal door, trying to catch his breath. How many of them are there? The survivor wiped blood from his blade. Too many. A massive shadow lunged from the ceiling. The creature's twisted limbs stretched toward Vena. She screamed. The human moved instantly, grabbing her and throwing her aside just in time. The beast crashed down where she had stood, snarling. Relk unloaded his rifle into it, plasma bolts burning through its thick hide. But it didn't die. Instead, the wounds began closing. Self-regeneration. Relk cursed. How do we stop them? The survivor gritted his teeth. You don't. Vena's eyes were wide. Then how did your kind survive? The human's voice was bitter. We didn't. A desperate plan. The beasts were closing in. The survivor turned sharply. We need to get to the hangar. Now. Relk nodded. Their shuttle was their only chance. They broke into a sprint, racing through the collapsing ruins. The ground trembled beneath their feet as the monsters shrieked, claws scraping against metal. Then, a loud alarm blared. The survivor froze. His face went pale. No. Relk's heart pounded. What? What is it? The human looked at him, his silver eyes filled with something Relk had never seen before. Fear. The facility just activated its failsafe. Vena's voice shook. What does that mean? The survivor clenched his fists. It means this place is about to self-destruct. The final race. The walls shook violently as warning lights flashed red. A deep rumbling came from beneath them. The facility was collapsing. Relk didn't hesitate. Move. Move. They sprinted down the last corridor, dodging falling debris and hungry monsters. The revenants didn't care about the explosion. They just wanted fresh prey. They reached the hangar doors. Vena punched the control panel. Nothing. Locked. The system's fried, she shouted. Relk turned to the survivor. Can you open it? The man hesitated for a single second, then shoved his arm into a nearby biometric scanner. A sharp hiss. The doors groaned open. One last stand. The creatures were right behind them. Relk leaped into the shuttle, starting the engines. Vena climbed in, panting. The survivor stood at the door, watching the revenants rush forward. He didn't move. Relk frowned. Get in. The human shook his head. I can't. Vena's eyes widened. What? Why? The survivor's silver eyes burned. I won't survive out there. I was made for this world now. Relk's chest tightened. You'll die here. The man smirked. No. But you will, if you don't leave now. The monsters charged. The doors slammed shut, and the last human survivor turned to face the monsters alone. The final departure. The shuttle blasted off as the facility erupted behind them. From the viewport, Relk saw the flames consume everything. The revenants. The ruins. The last man. Vena covered her mouth, trembling. Relk's hands gripped the controls so tightly his knuckles turned white. One final message. Then, a transmission crackled through their comms. A single voice. The survivor. Tell them the truth. Then, silence. As the shuttle broke through Earth's atmosphere, Relk knew one thing for certain. The Council thought Earth was dead. They were wrong. The shuttle drifted silently through space, leaving the burning remains of Earth behind. Commander Relk Taven sat in the cockpit, gripping the controls tightly. His mind raced. The last human survivor had given them a message. Tell them the truth. But would the Galactic Council even believe them? Echoes of the dead. Vena sat beside him, staring blankly at the viewport. He stayed behind. Her voice was barely a whisper. Relk nodded. He had no choice. The image of the silver-eyed man standing against the revenants was burned into his mind. Humanity had been feared for centuries. The Council had classified Earth as a Class 14 Deathworld, assuming the planet was long dead. But they had been wrong. Something had survived. Something far worse than anyone had imagined. The Council's response. Hours later, the shuttle entered Council-controlled space. A cold, metallic voice filled the cockpit. Unregistered vessel. Identify yourself. Relk took a deep breath. This is Commander Relk Taven, priority code Alpha 17. We have urgent information regarding Earth. There was a long silence. Then, proceed to docking bay. Your report will be received by the High Council. Relk exchanged a look with Vena. They both knew what this meant. Their discovery could change everything. A dangerous truth. The Council chambers were massive, filled with towering alien figures. The High Chancellor, a reptilian Styrak, gazed down at them with piercing yellow eyes. You claim to have been to Earth. Relk stood tall. We were sent to investigate rumors. The planet was not uninhabited. The Council members murmured among themselves. One, a pale-skinned Evanari, narrowed his eyes. Explain. Relk took a deep breath. Humanity was not destroyed. They tried to evolve to survive. They became something else. A hush fell over the room. And the Chancellor pressed. Relk's next words sent a chill through the chamber. Earth still belongs to them. The unseen war. The council erupted into chaos. Some were in disbelief. Others were afraid. This is impossible. A Salvoran delegate hissed. Earth was lost centuries ago. Vena spoke for the first time. We saw them. We fought them. They are not gone. The Chancellor's yellow eyes narrowed. If this is true, the entire galaxy is in danger. Relk's hands clenched into fists. The danger isn't coming from Earth. The room fell silent. Relk stared at the council. The danger is that you covered up the truth. You left them there to die. A final warning. The High Chancellor leaned forward. And what would you have us do? Relk's voice was cold. We prepare. The Chancellor's eyes flickered. Prepare for what? Relk's answer sent a chill through the chamber. For the day they return.